Hello everyone, welcome to What If Issei Was Neglected and Becomes the God of Creation and Destruction Part 12. Before we start, please go support Ethan 1939 for writing that awesome fanfic. Now let's begin. This is the translated version I made. There will be some wrong he or she calling here because it's translated, so let me clear this. Issei is a male in this story. Part 72 TXT meeting. After a few days in which Issei returned to normal, Issei can be seen with a somewhat serious look while in his hand, he had a box of donuts. The boy wandered through the hallways of the abandoned school while bringing a small gift to his friend Ashino and Rivai. The boy did not really like that they will live there. In fact, he had offered them to stay in his house, but they refused since they said that place is special. Issei just sighed while he remembered their old conversation a little to continue walking through the corridors of the place. At one point before passing in front of a door, he stopped. The boy only breathed to calm his nerves a little and passed through that door, seeing an Ashino and Rivai next to a kiss shot still in the corner. Issei. "Hello guys, how have you been?" he said with a smile. Ashino. "Ooh, hello Issei." Rivai. "Well, fine I guess," he said while smoking a cigarette with Ashino. Issei. "I brought you some snacks," he said, showing the donuts. Ashino. "Hahaha, thank you very much," he said while eating some donuts with Rivai. Rivai. Delicious," he said while eating the donuts. They both ate the donuts with a smile while Issei took one for a certain legendary ex-vampire. Issei. "Take kiss shot," he said while offering her a donut. The vampire simply looked away with a somewhat annoyed look while she didn't say anything. Seeing that, Issei just sighed and left the donut aside for her to eat later. Issei just sighed and then spoke to Ashino. Ashino. "It seems like she's still upset," he said, looking at kiss shot. Hahaha, it seems like a couple's fight. Issei. "I wish it were that, but." Sigh. "It's more complicated than that." Ashino. "Ooh, oh by the way, I almost forgot to tell you, I changed the name of the vampire lowly there," he said, pointing to kiss shot. Issei. "Did you change his name?" Ashino. "Well, it's not kiss shot anymore, so I figured that giving it a more normal name would be a little more appropriate. I took the trouble to give it my last name and think of a nice name, so now, meet Ashino Shinobu-chan," he said while looking at the blonde lowly. Issei. "Hahaha, I understand, so. Hello Shinobu," he said, while the lowly simply looked away in annoyance. Issei just sighed when he saw that reaction, but he noticed something, and that was that the donut that she had left for the lowly was no longer there and there were some crumbs in her mouth. Seeing that, Issei smiled and after giving her blood so that she could feed, Issei went home. Time skip. Issei's mansion house. You can see an Issei sitting chatting with his friends while a Red was on the ground, somewhat beaten. Red. Why you said that? Issei. "That wasn't the real me, so I don't care, Red," she said, looking at a Red with a dead look. "If you sleep with my mother, you die." Red. Hi, she said, crying comically. After Issei had recovered her true personality, he had to fix some problems with Red and her mother since they now more than ever seemed like teenagers in love. Issei just sighed so that after a while he started playing video games with Office. Office. "Gigi, so you put Red in his place?" he said, looking at Issei. Issei. "That's right. Office. What a shame I didn't see his face all beaten up." Ooh, by the way, in the news a few days ago it was said that a species of clothing had roared loudly for some reason. The people were terrified, but I was able to identify the roar. It seemed like Tiamat was upset, he said, so that Issei sighed. Issei. "They probably told her something bad, maybe about Yuki, and she's not very happy." "It doesn't matter," she said while continuing to play. Office. "Aren't you afraid?" "Men are always afraid when their husband or in your case one of their wives gets upset because of them," she said, looking curiously at Issei. Issei. "I'm not that kind of guy from any harem and I'm unique and unmatched," she said proudly. Office. "Yes, you are strange," she said while continuing to play, but she smiled tenderly at Issei's attitude. Time skip. Next day. Issei walks calmly through the school hallways, but at that moment she could see a Rivai wearing her uniform while she was beating the school's perverted duo. Rivai. "Damn idiots, this is what happens to them for spying in girls' bathrooms, bastard," she said as she knocked one of them out with a single blow. Issei. "Rivai, what are you doing?" he said, completely calm and not disturbed by the massacre he saw. Rivai. "Well, what do you think? I'm putting these two dogs to sleep for their misdeeds," he said while he slammed the other's head against a wall, knocking him out. Issei only smiled a little while he calmed the girl down. After calming her down, they both went to the dining room to have lunch with their other classmates. Time skip. Issei and his friends were walking from school and upon entering his mansion, Issei was tackled by three girls. Hiroka. "Hello Issei Naya, did you miss me?" he said while hugging Issei. The Fae. "Hello Issei-sama, I had missed him so much." Valerie. "Hello Issei, let's go to the room and have a lot of hex said directly." Azara. "Hey crazy, let it go," she said, annoyed looking at Valerie. Valerie. "Shut up, bother, why don't you go with that idiot Drake to bother somewhere else?" Drake. "Shut up partner, kick his ass now." Albino. "Kill her mate, show that idiot Drake who swims." Issei. Okay, stop, there won't be any fights in my house, he said, stopping the two. Hineko. One-E-chan, what are you doing here? Weren't you with Azazel-sensei? Hineko. That crow gave us a few days off, plus we came to tell you that in a few days we will have a meeting, the entire DXD group will be there, and it will be something important, he said, looking at Issei and the others. Issei. I understand, but could you get up now? I can't help but see Asia's panties, he said while the blonde was blushing. Asia. Issei-san, you don't need to do that just to see me, if you ask me I will do it with pleasure, she said, all red. Issei. Okay, now get up. After a while where Valerie's group went out to have fun for a while, you can see a somewhat upset Issei, the reason. Well, now he was looking at a totally drunk Azazel, while Yuki's mother and herself were carrying him. Azazel. Hahaha. Hiccup. Breasts. Issei. Azazel, what the hell did you do? Elizabeth. Don't bother with him, he just wanted to relax according to him, nothing explicit, he just drank with some company from one of my friends, and after getting totally drunk, we brought him, he said, while the drunk Azazel tried to touch his butt. Azazel. Hehehe. Yo, you are very beautiful. Hip. Why not? The man cannot finish speaking since Yuki dropped him accidentally. Yuki. Oops, sorry Azazel-sensei, my mistake, he said as the fallen man staggered to his feet. Azazel. Hip. Issei. Hip. I want to tell you that. Hip. I love you very much, he said while he hugged Issei totally drunk. You are like the hip. That I never had. Issei. Azazel, you're all drunk, he said while trying not to drop it. Azazel. Buck. Hip. Rizvan. He's just a faggot and a hip. Asshole, he said while he moved from side to side as if he was dancing. I want girls. Hip. And fun. Issei. Hahaha, yes of course, let's go to bed now, a pretty girl is waiting for you there, she said, taking Azazel to one of the rooms to sleep. After that Issei came down with a smile while on his phone, he had a photo of an Azazel vomiting in the bathroom while he was with a big smile. Issei. Thank you for bringing it, he said looking at both of them, sometimes I think I'm the adult. Elizabeth. It's okay, but. She said as she took Issei's hands. Thank you very much. Issei. Elizabeth. Yuki told me what happened between you when you were with that vampire, really thank you for doing it with my daughter, she said while Yuki was blushing. Yuki. Mom, she said all red. Issei. Haha, yes of course it was nothing. He said something awkward. Elizabeth. Well, I'll leave you alone, goodbye, daughter, make sure you feed yourself as you should, take all the sperm and don't leave any. Yuki. Mom, stop it. Elizabeth just left in a magic circle while she left both young men alone. Yuki. Sorry about that, and my mom is very strange about that kind of thing. Issei. You don't have to apologize, I know what your mom is like, she said with a smile. Both of them for some reason remained in a somewhat awkward silence until Issei said a few words. Issei. Do you want to go somewhere else? Yuki. Why yes, I would love to, she said with a smile. Both young people simply went to see a romantic movie that in the end ended in hexual results. Time skip. Next day. You can see an Issei with a serious look while he had glasses and his hands were clasped looking at his other companions. Issei. Well. This meeting begins, he said seriously. Rias. Ice, why do you wear glasses? Issei. I'm in character, he answered simply. Hiba. And why do you wear those strange clothes and white gloves? Issei. Shut up Shinji and get on the Eva, he said while shutting up Kiba. Azazel. Well, this meeting begins. The entire DXD group was at the meeting, including Tsukyun and Rito, with their respective teams watching the meeting through a hologram. Tsukyun. Before we start we have to ask something, he said seriously. Rito. Who is the leader? Everyone. Issei. Azazel. What? No, we never said that, he said looking at everyone. Ikeno. Ara, why not? Issei is the strongest, handsome, intelligent. Rias. Best strategist. Izara. Best leader. Yuri. Best person. Yui. Best master. Lin. And better than anyone else in bed. Azazel. Those last two things have nothing to do with each other. Issei. I'm sorry Azazel, this is democracy and the majority voted for me, he said with a big smile on his face. Azazel. I don't believe this, raise your hand those who want Issei to be the leader. Everyone except Azazel raised their hand, causing Issei to laugh in the fallen man's face. Issei. Ha 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 ha, I already told you, Azazel, there is no better leader than me, he said with a smile. Azazel. Dulio, you were supposed to be the leader, he said looking at the angel. Dulio. Nah, I never liked being the leader, a lot of responsibility. Azazel. Don't buck with me. Issei. Well, since I'm the Red Power Ranger I say that now we're going to get a base, he said with a smile. Mocha. It doesn't seem like a bad idea. Issei. And it will be in space, he said with a big smile. Azazel. And it's already gotten complicated. Ashino. Ha 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 ha, I thought your meetings would be boring, but they are more fun than I thought, he said with a smile. Azazel. Sighed. I'm too old for this. Rias. Well, joking aside, as some of us may have noticed, the plans for Sona's school are beginning to conclude, but a special guest will come to stay with us. She will give a special talk to the students and their families. Parents at school, apparently he is eager to come. You. Her. Ha 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 ha, it's better that Issei doesn't approach her, she said with a mocking smile. Gibba. Seeing her will surely seduce her, she also said with a mocking smile. Upon hearing that, the girls began to emanate a purple and terrifying aura. All. That won't happen. Issei simply ignored the girl's death glares, while Lamacha also saw Issei the same way through the hologram. Issei. What a nice day it is today, right? She said looking out the window. Sona. Well, continuing from before, she will stay at Issei's house for a few days while that ends. Issei. And why always in my house? Sukyun. Maybe because you have a giant mansion in an ordinary neighborhood. There is also popularity in that area of the city. Apparently people have recorded some supernatural events, such as roars and lights in the middle of the night and other things. Issei. Sigh, I guess you're right. Rito. Maybe we'll stay there on vacation, she said happily. Issei. Of course not. Akeno. Ara, but Issei's house is a sanctuary for her harem. Ria's. A sanctuary that they almost never respect and where more girls come out to be part of her harem, she said, looking a little at Yuki who was blushing. Issei. Well, moving on to the important topic, what's new with the old man from Rizavan? He said while everyone became more serious. Roswis. According to reports, it seems the Qliphoth has been gathering more supernatural beings, in fact all kinds of creatures for his purpose of conquering new worlds. This of course, seems attractive to many violent species, but those that are not recruited by force. Including magicians. Right. Death Eaters. Issei. Voldemort too. Ha 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 ha, then let me send him flying with a spell, she said with a smile. Roswis. The sorcery academies have already been informed and it is expected to increase their security. Sona. According to me, you have 2 notable witches in your group, right? He said looking at Sukyun's group. Sukyun. Yes, but if they try to do anything to him I will kill them. I won't let them hurt you, she said, making both girls blush. Sona. We suffered an attack once despite the city barrier. I ask you please do not let your guard down. Mocha. We won't. Azazel. We also wanted to talk about a somewhat peculiar organization, nothing really important, but it seems that they are gangsters. They took control of the mafias in several countries like Italy. Does anyone know who they are? Everyone shook their head, but some guys were nervous and just trying to deflect the conversation. Riaz. I know what's happening. Because you say nothing. Normally you would say that they are just idiots and nothing more, he said looking at Issei who seemed nervous. Issei. I don't know what you're talking about, I just don't care much. Lala. Rito, why are you sweating so much? And why do you move your feet so much? Right. This. Mocha. Nai-san, why does it look like you're going to wet yourself? Said while Tsukyun moved the legs of a rare mint. The 3 boys were simply trying not to give themselves away, but a certain transvestite vampire spoke up. Asper. That's not the mafia that Issei-senpai rules. He said innocently. Everyone. Issei. Whispering Gasper, shut up, you're going to give us away. Riaz. Wait, Issei has a mafia. Yui. Master, what did you do? Issei. Well. Edo. Hibba. I don't think it's worth hiding it anymore, Issei. Yu. Gasper's innocence along with a lack of normality in our expressions and comments gave us away. Issei. Shit. Azazel. So you guys already knew? He said looking at the 3 boys. Yu. Not only that, we also make up the mafia as the 6 leaders of everything. Lin. 6 leaders at all. Issei. Hahaha, when we were at Rito's house we destroyed a gang, and so that the same thing wouldn't happen again we created a mafia. We keep the big and small cities in order, we call ourselves the leaders of the whole, he said with a smile. Julio. Hey, what a great name, he said looking at Issei. Riaz. So basically now you guys own a mafia. The 6. Yes, they said with a big smile. Akeno. Ara. Asia. Does that mean Issei-sen is a criminal? Everyone. Basically. Issei. Hahaha, so I basically own Italy too, I didn't know that until now, thanks for the information Azazel, he said with a smile. Azazel. That's nothing to be happy about, idiot, that's wrong. Issei. Of course not, our mafia simply keeps criminals in line and controls, it's not a bad thing. Rito. Yes, we are like gods among humans. Sukyun. Great ones. Azazel. Sigh, I'm really getting too old for this. Time skip. After the meeting ends you can see Issei with a big smile while Azazel looks sad. Issei. Come on Azazel, if you want I'll let you be the vice captain, he said with a smile, don't be sad. Azazel. Screw you. Became. Ani-chan, let's go home and rest, he said as he hugged his arm. Sarah. Yes, and maybe we'll have some fun like last night, he said with a mischievous smile. Issei. Sure, come on, he said with a big smile. After that Issei and his friends went home and Issei had a night with his girls that he also ended with. Hexwell results. Art 73 More competition. The day in Kuo City was a beautiful night, the stars illuminated the sky, and the moon was at the top of the night sky illuminating the streets. In the distance in a certain abandoned school you can see an Issei walking through the hallways, looking for a certain man in Hawaiian shirts, while he had a box full of donuts in his hand. The boy had a smile for some reasons that we will mention later, while he continued looking for the blonde with the goatee, but when passing through a door he saw with a somewhat sad look a shinobu with her monotonous look. Issei only came in to say hello and give the vampire some donuts. Issei. Hello shinobu, how are you? He said looking at the vampire who only looked away. Seeing that, Issei just sighed to give him a donut. Issei. Do you want? He said showing her the donut. The vampire lowly simply snatched the donut out of her hands quickly to devour it. Issei only smiled when he saw that, but after eating the donuts he returned to his monotonous and empty look. At that moment Issei had an idea, he just placed a donut in the center of the room, while he watched that donut with a little drool coming out of her mouth. Issei. You want her right? He said looking at the vampire who only nodded well then go. As he said that he lunged at the donut like a wolf devouring a gazelle, and ate every last crumb of that donut. Seeing that, Issei just smiled, but after finishing eating the donut he sat down again in the corner of the room. Seeing that, Issei just sighed and then showed Shinobu the box full of donuts. The little vampire just looked at the box almost mesmerized while she drooled. Issei. Here he said, leaving the box aside I'll have to bring something else to Ashino, maybe a pizza. When Issei left the box full of donuts to Shinobu, he could only see her devouring them like an animal. Issei, upon seeing that, only sighed to walk to the exit while leaving the blonde alone, but before leaving, he heard the cute and tender voice of the blonde. Shinobu. Delicious, these sweet circles are delicious. Hearing that voice, Issei was surprised, but when he turned to look at the vampire, he only found her again in her corner looking at him with her bored gaze. Issei. Hey, you spoke right. She said looking at the lowly who only looked away. Don't act like you don't know you spoke, he said looking at the vampire as if he were a child. The lowly just tried not to see the albino, but Issei noticed that he had a small and almost invisible blush on her small cheeks. Issei upon seeing that just smiled to leave her alone leaving the place. Shinobu. Baka. Time skip next day. You can see a happy Issei in her house while the one around her was somewhat tense. The reason was somewhat complicated since a few hours ago a certain silver-haired girl did something that bothered the girls. Flashback. You can see an Issei waking up normally, he is low and went to make breakfast like most days, but this time in the kitchen he found a Roswis cooking. Issei. Roswis. What are you doing here? You never get up early, especially on Saturday, she said looking at the date on her cell phone. Roswis. I just wanted to make something special, that's all, she said something blushing while she went back to cooking. It seemed strange to Issei, but she just let it go, since the girl seemed a little nervous for some reason and also blushing, so she just thought that she was trying to impress him by showing what a good wife she would be like most of her girls. After a while everyone was awake while eating the Roswis food. Riaz. How strange that Roswis made breakfast today. Asia. Yes, she's actually been kind of weird lately. Azara. What do you think happened? Bread. Haha, maybe she's pregnant and trying to surprise Issei, she said, she mocking the albino. Issei. Shut up, you're not helping. After eating you can see an Issei sitting on the sofa in the living room looking at a blushing Roswis. Issei. Ross-chan, what's wrong? She said while the other girls were hidden looking at them with a terrifying aura since what Red said got into their heads a lot. Roswis. Well. I wanted to ask you something, she said nervously and blushing. Issei-kun, could you be my boyfriend? Each and every one of those who were listening to the conversation only turned their backs because of the silver-haired girl's silly request. Issei. But we aren't anymore. She asked, making the silver-haired girl blush. Roswis. Really? Issei. Yes, what did you think we were? Roswis. Well. Lovers maybe. Issei only smiled to hug and give the girl a tender kiss on her lips, making her blush. Issei. Of course not, you are my girlfriend and wife just like the others, she said, giving him a big protagonist smile. The silver-haired girl only blushed, but so that Issei wouldn't see her blush, he hid in her chest. Roswis. Well. It's okay, she said while a beautiful smile formed on her face. Then flashback. Riaz. Well guys, someone is coming home today. Issei. Why do they keep inviting strange people to my house? She said looking at Riaz. Actually, Sona and Roswis's guest, apparently she is the girl he talked about in the last meeting, she said with disgust. The other girls, upon hearing that, just made a disgusted face while Issei just sighed. After a while and several murderous auras on the part of the girls that later turned into big pouts, the Gremory group and the albino went to receive the guest. The girls asked Kuroka, Faye and Office to go to another residence floor. Office for her part did not want to like the other two, but Issei only convinced them with several bags of sweets and some video games for the dragon loli. While the others tried not to mention Hela, since it was a somewhat topic delicate and only the leaders were aware of it. After a while a circle with some Nordic runes appeared, leaving a gust of icy wind in the room, while a Viking horn sounded while a female silhouette appeared. A beautiful woman came out of the circle who was wearing a blue suit, although as she walked she could hear some pieces of metal. The boys were somewhat surprised, especially Issei, since she was the same as Roswis, only she seemed more mature and looked at him with a hard look. Issei. Ooh, this is your sister Roswis, you never told me you had one, she said looking at the woman. Roswis. No, Issei, she is my grandmother, he said looking at the woman. Grandma. Issei. Impossible, she is very young and pretty, rather she looks like your sister or mother, she said, looking at the woman who blushed a little at Issei's compliment. Nice to meet you, my name is Gondar, thank you for taking care of my granddaughter, said the woman. Red. Ha 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 ha, at least you know that your girl will be a great MILF, Chico, she said, while she had a mocking smile. Desara. Red Kun, where are you, she asked a chestnut while she was on another floor of the mansion. Red. Excuse me, duty calls me, she said leaving. Issei. When this is over I'm going to hit him. After that, the Gremory group guided the woman to the VIP room, and almost everyone in the group showed up, since the male members of the group were missing. While they introduced themselves, a certain Redeed explained that there will be a magic assembly in the Agar's territory, and above all magic and sorcerers with ancient knowledge, secrets and strange scrolls disappear. You. Nice to meet you, I'm hyoudou. Kiba. I'm Kiba hyoudou. Gasper. I'm Gasper Vladi. Onder. I don't care about your names, which one of you is Issei? She asked seriously. At that moment an Issei with a somewhat childish look raised his hand. A silver-haired woman only approached Issei and began to see him from all angles. She touched his muscles and also for some reason touched his butt. Onder. Well, I see why my granddaughter likes you, you seem to have a great physique, plus you look like a bad boy, she said looking at Issei. Issei. Thank you. Roswis. Grandma. While Gondar continued analyzing Issei, he mentioned that the best way to reduce these kidnappings of magicians is to seal the magic of those involved with the help of the Grigori organization. Gondar. Before they seal our powers we decided to exchange opinions. There are magicians who refuse to participate in the meeting. But many of them cannot miss this opportunity to go to the underworld. I also received an intervention from Sona Sitri to participate in your school. Issei. Ooh, you are Sona's special guest then, she said looking at the older silver-haired girl. Yui. It seems so. Lin. Master, don't approach him, just for safety, she said, hugging her arm next to Yui, somewhat jealous. Issei, upon hearing well about the magicians, only smiled with some interest. Riaz. Are you interested in being a magician? Issei. Of course, studying at the Academy of Witchcraft and Wizardry is a great honor. I can't wait to have duels with Death Eaters. By the way, do you think the hat will select me for Gryffindor or Slytherin? The boys only laughed when they heard the albino's joke, and the girls did too, although Gondar did not understand the reference that Issei had made. Issei. Ooh, or maybe be a vigilante hero and use magecraft, he said excitedly. Gondar. You are a strange person, Chico, but I think I see what Roswis likes about you, but I still don't understand why Aden-sama trusts you so much, he said looking at the ring that Issei had. You, my dear Ross, you became a demon, you got a job as a teacher in the human world, and you associate with dangerous beings. Ross, do you want to worry me more? She said while she was massaging her temple. Roswis. And no. Me well. Issei. Mrs. Gondar, I must say how the husband and boyfriend of her granddaughter is more capable than she thinks. She is independent and she is very good at what she does, she said, surprising both silver-haired girls. Roswis. Issei-kun said blushing at everything the albino said. Gondar. Maybe that's the case, but it still doesn't stop worrying me. Maybe I'm good at studies and magic, but you're clumsy and have a forgetful mentality, not to mention that you're so sweet and innocent. I was worried about how you would take your job in a country as far away as this, and even if I told you that I would feel safer if you had a boyfriend. But I didn't expect it to be like this, she said looking at Issei with a little blush while he greeted kindly. The silver-haired girl hugged Issei's arms with a blush. Roswis. Issei-kun is a man I can depend on. He is also the descendant of God and the Demon King, not to mention that he is also one of the people who most confesses to Aden-sama. Also he was able to defeat Loki effortlessly with Thor-sama's own hammer. Gondar. Maybe, but just because he lifted Thor-sama's hammer doesn't mean he has a pure heart. You? Yes, more like a heart that is disinterested in almost everything. Issei. Shut up. Gondar. Giants have lifted Thor's hammer before. Although they were never able to use his lightning for their benefit or call him to their cause. The power only responds to those who are willing to kill and die, he said it would be. Issei. Well, I have something similar, she said, taking out a revolver. This weapon was previously Thor's original hammer, she said with a smile. Roswis. It's true, Issei was not only able to use Thor's powers, but he also destroyed his hammer and modified it, he said, while Issei showed his revolver. Thunder. Sigh. Well, let's leave this for later, the important question is. Have you already done that kind of thing? Roswis. Grandma. Issei. I think it's better that his granddaughter answers that, she said while sitting in one of the chairs in the place. Thunder. Well, it's normal to get carried away in the moment after a good battle, he said, while Roswis was totally blushing. Hi to Issei. I still don't agree with this. I told him hundreds of times. I told Ross to avoid associating with bad and rebellious boys, but in the end, she ended up ignoring what I told her. But since she and you have shared your feelings, I have to be sure that you are a good boy, so they will have a date. Both. Thunder. Have a date. Taking into account what we discussed, I will ask you in more detail about her date and we will continue this conversation later. Then she dismissed me for the moment, she said before leaving for a hotel that the black-haired Citri had prepared for her. After that, Issei's girls looked at him with annoyance and Roswis was very blushing and embarrassed. Roswis. I'm sorry, it's only a short period of time that we will do this. Please can you? She said, looking at the albino with a beautiful look of supplication. Issei had to curse how beautiful and cute the silver-haired girl looked since Issei couldn't make herself black at all. Issei. Don't worry, I'm your boyfriend, you forget, I would do anything for you, she said while she gave him a tender kiss. Roswis just blushed, but she also smiled as she hid her blush by hugging Issei's chest. Time skip. Next day. You can see in Issei and Ravel next to the Fae. The magical blonde apparently offered to make a contract with the Fae. Issei only accepts because she looked like she was going to cry and also because she seemed sad, so Issei only succumbed to Fae's pretty sad face. The magician was preparing a couple of things. Ravel took out some candles and a turtle shell to carry out the ritual. Ravel took out a contract written in the alphabet of hell, while the brunette and the blonde signed in blood at the end of it, for later enter a magic circle drawn with blood. Issei. Where did they get all these things from? He said looking at the candles and other items. The Fae. Internet answered simply. Ravel. Well, now the ritual begins. The Fae. Cough. On my behalf, I, Le Fae, wish to make a request to the god who will rule all. Issei hyoudou, I want you to make a contract with me and become my sworn friend. Issei. In the name of Issei hyoudou, the god of hell and heaven, I promise to make a pact with you, Fae Pendragon, to protect you, finish and crush your enemies, to make you happy, no matter the cost, and I will be there for you. No matter what. At that moment the circle shined white, surprising Ravel and Le Fae, while a mark was seen on the magician's neck, while Issei had a mark on her right hand. The mark was two wings, one black and the other white. For some reason Issei had the need to give an order to Le Fae, while the blonde only blushed and felt submissive in Issei's presence. Le Fae. Well, thank you very much, Issei-sama, he said to run away. Both boys who stayed in the room just thought it was strange how he ran away, but they just let him pass. Issei. Now am I tied to her or something? He said looking at her mark that disappeared. Ravel. I think you exaggerated a bit, Issei, but luckily it's only a 5-year contract, he said simply. After their pact, the brunette returned to the main room to wait for the silver-haired girl for their date, who appeared wearing clothes that highlighted her beauty, something completely different from what Issei was used to. They even noticed that she had a little makeup on, which was surprising. To the girls. Roswis. I'm ready, said blushing. Issei. You look very beautiful, she said looking at the silver-haired girl. Rias. Cough. Well, we will have a meeting before going to the underworld, so don't be late. Both. Hi, Rias. By the way, Ice, you will have a date with each of us when Roswis's date is over, he said, looking at Issei seriously. Issei. It will be a pleasure, my pretty Rias, he said, making the girl blush. Rias. Stop seducing women when you're with another pervert, he said to her while she was blushing. Now go. Issei. Okay, goodbye, she said leaving with Roswis. The brunette and the silver-haired girl prepared for their date. The girl apparently wanted to go to Tokyo, so they both went to their destination by train. Along the way people couldn't stop seeing the silver-haired girl, since she was very beautiful, and in the case of the girls these saw Issei. They both made a very cute couple, and some others thought they were a Hollywood couple or something like that. Upon arriving in the city they both went to a 100-yen store where the silver-haired girl bought all kinds of items. Issei on the other hand, simply carried the girl's bags, but he had to admit that he loved seeing the girl smile. After for a while, they both went to eat something at a restaurant with a terrace. Roswis. Did I bore you? I'm sorry for buying all these things and making you carry them and being the only one to have fun, she said sadly. Issei. Of course I'm not upset. I also had fun with you, and I loved seeing you smile and have a good time like a girl, she said, while having a big smile. It was a normal date, I guess. Roswis. Well. I had fun too, and I loved that you were with me. In fact, it's the first date I've had with a man, said blushing. Issei. And is it okay for it to be with me? Roswis. Of course, she said decisively, but blushing. You are the only man who doesn't see me like the others. Whispering. I spent my whole life studying while the other Valkyries spent time with heroes and warriors. For a while. I thought for a while that I must have been like them, but you have shown me that there is more to it than that. Symbol of my family that passes from generation to generation, only the firstborn have the right to wear it, and it is introduced into the essence of who wears it until the time comes to pass it on. I am the firstborn, but I couldn't. No matter how hard I tried, the emblem did not respond to me. Apparently, I am not compatible with my family's magic, but my family never took it the wrong way. They know that this kind of thing happens in all families. The way they took it made me happy, but somehow the feeling of not meeting the expectations of others remains. He said before there was a brief silence between both of them. I'm sorry, talk too much. I never usually talk about this with anyone. I guess with everything that is happening, I felt like I should share my feelings with someone. Issei. Roswis. No matter where it is, if you ever want to express your feelings, I will be there for you to vent all that. Your frustration, stress, pain and more, I will always be there for you, she said with a big smile. Roswis, upon hearing that, just smiled in a tender way while she looked at Issei. After a while they both chatted while both had a tremendous desire to hug and kiss each other. It was normal, since they were both basically young people in love and were more than connected, but they did not do it out of public decency. After a while they were both finishing their date and Roswis watched the sunset with Issei. Roswis. You know. When I started teaching I was afraid of not being a good teacher. I was always a good student, but I didn't know what it was like to teach, but I never believed it was something so fun and incredible. I was afraid that my grandmother wouldn't like this. But apparently that's the only good thing I learned from her. Teaching, she said with a beautiful smile. Oh dear, there is no thing in which you are inferior to your grandmother, said a familiar voice that made both of them put on guard. Issei. Clifford. Roswis. Euclid. Issei. Ah yes, Euclid said bored. Euclid. How are you, Hybrid and Roswis? Issei. Tell me, how are your arms? She said mockingly. Euclid at that moment only rolled up the sleeve of his shirt to show that his arm looked like that of a lizard. Euclid. It seems these lizard arms are more compatible with my sacred gear, at least for now. Issei. Ha 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 ha, hello Mr. Lizard, how are you doing? Tell me. Will he attack Manhattan or something? Do I have to wear red and blue tights? He said with mockery. Euclid. Shut up. Also, this is just a replacement. In the future I will get the perfect replacement. But you will have to wait, I have issues to resolve. Issei. The only issue you will have to solve is how not to have your face disfigured by my blows. Roswis also became serious. Issei, and she knew that she would not activate her magic with circus civilians, and she knew that if she did not, Issei would beat her in hand-to-hand combat. Euclid. QL. Millennium. Issei. Hey, they gave him the name I recommended, she said smiling. Euclid. Well, we look for promising people with extraordinary abilities. People like you, Roswis. And someone who wrote about the beast of the apocalypse has a good place in our organization. Roswis. H. How do you know? Euclid. The Lovecraftian creatures are not the only ones we seek to liberate. Rizvan Sama wants to take the war further. If they surpass us in technology, we surpass them in beasts. Said Rizvan Sama. The approaching war does not compare to those that once existed on this planet. Roswis. The only one who knew about my research besides my professors was my roommate. Don't tell me she. Euclid. That's right, she was a great help, but she was not capable enough, not like you. Yo, you are different. Roswis. So you attacked her. The girl only looked at the gray-haired man with a look full of anger. I will kill you right now. Euclid. If I were you, I wouldn't do it. Not if you want to have a lot of human corpses, and we both know that I would take advantage of that, she said with an evil smile. The girl just clicked her tongue in annoyance. Euclid. I will give you some time to think about it. By the way, your partner is still alive. Still. Our organization treats well the family and friends of those who come to join. Voluntarily. He said while addressing this one. You are exceptional, more than you think, and this beautiful silver hair. The guy was about to touch Roswis, but at that moment Issei hit him in the face, making him retreat. Issei. I'm sorry, idiot, but she's busy, he said seriously, looking at the man compose himself. Euclid. Ha, I'm not the same as that hybrid time. He said while holding a lock of the silver-haired girl's hair. You will discover that lizard blood is not the only one compatible with my sacred gear. He said as he disappeared into a crowd. I will wait for your response. Art 74 Oro's Academy. After Euclid's sudden appearance, Issei can be seen with his companions in the meeting room while they chatted with a hologram Azazel. Riaz. I was careless, he said. She is serious while she thought about what Issei and Roswis told her. Akeno. Don't worry, it's not your fault, Ria, she said while comforting her, we all underestimate all the power they have. Azazel. None of them were. For one of their members to walk so freely in an area as guarded as Tokyo, they only tell us that they have to win, especially with so many civilians. They try to tell us who could play dirty, but are willing to negotiate. Zenobia. And wanting to take Roswisen with them, he said she with crossed arms and in an annoyed tone. Irina. But what does Roswisen have to do with his plans? Azazel. The beast of the apocalypse, 666 or Trihexa. Apparently this new millennium group is not content with releasing deities from chaos, it wants to have all the possible arsenal on its side to guarantee its victory in a catastrophic intergalactic war, he said, while pouring himself a drink. On the other hand, Roswis. Roswis? Hi. Azazel. Do you think you can give me a copy or a very detailed report about your work? Roswis. Yes, I will send you a copy, she said looking at the crow. Azazel. Well, Issei, you already know what to do. Issei. Kick the ass of any of those idiots. Group, got it, she said, she in a military pose. Azazel. From now on, be careful guys. She said before the hologram of her disappeared. Azazel's office. The fallen man sat tiredly while he gave a long and loud sigh. On his desk there were documents, some of these were profiles with subtitles of some dangerous people, one of them there was one that said Queen, but the fallen man simply found it. He gave more importance to ones titled Devolukians and Lord Devoluk, while he arranged them and removed one titled Interspecies Proposal and put it in another place. Erekiel. Don't you like the proposal? Said the man as he entered Azazel's office. This is the proposal of the Lamia tribe. The Olympian gods want to heal old wounds of the past with many species that exiled. And they think that supporting their proposals would be a good way to reach good terms. Azazel. They are not trying to fix anything, you should already know, they just want to prepare humanity, they want monsters, gods and humans to be united in case we still do not reach a mutual agreement, he said, simply while frowning a little. What do you mean, Azazel? Said a seductive voice as elegant heels entered the room. The woman who entered the room was beautiful, tall, slender, dressed elegantly and just like her walk and her gaze stood out wherever she went. Azazel. Penemu. Said the fallen one, changing her expression slightly. Penemu. Have you had a conversation with your children again? When will you introduce me to the hybrid boy? Azazel. I don't think it's a good idea. He said a little nervously. Penemu. Are you afraid that I will fall for his charms? Just like Barakiel's daughter did. He said while the other fallen man gritted his teeth. Azazel. I'm afraid something worse happened than that. The boy is very good with people's names. Penemu. He has my name. Both. Nothing, both said quickly. Penemu. By the way, don't you think you're thinking too much about this? If the Devoluk are as advanced as you say, then establishing peace terms would not be a problem. Azazel. It's not as simple as it seems, he said as he stood up. According to what his daughter, Lala Sadalin, told me, his father is titled the Emperor of the Galaxy. Tell me, do you think the gods would bow their heads for someone with that title? And above all, what would happen if everyone refuses? Also, as her daughter has told me, her species could be more dangerous than we think, he said seriously. Time skip next day. The next day the Gremory group went to the Agar's territory, very close to where the Gremory and Bale group's raiding game was held, where the floating city could be seen very blurry in the distance, to visit the Sona Citri school which was in agricultural territory. The trio from the church really enjoyed the open field full of farmers and tranquility in the environment, while Saji picked them up to guide them to school. On the way Asia and Zenobia kept commenting on how they would like a quiet life in territory like this, while Irina supported them. Asia. I would really like to grow things in a place like that. Zenobia. Our life as demons is long, if Issei and Asia decide to have a life like that I will join, she said with a smile. Irina. Maybe I also want to live in the countryside in the future, but it seems difficult for an angel to live in the underworld. Issei. We don't need to come to the underworld. He said while he had a straw hat and a wheat stick in his mouth. My grandfather lives in a rural area like he is. Kiba. Where did you get the hat? Asia. Issei-san, do you have a grandfather? She said amazed since Issei doesn't talk much about her family. Issei. He's my grandfather on my mother's side, I always went to visit him every summer. Sighed. I hope he's okay, with all this about the demons and Rizavan's attacks I haven't been able to visit him, said something nostalgic. Irina. I see. She said a little embarrassed because the albino was very reserved and despite having been her childhood friend, she realized that in reality she didn't know much about the albino. You. Grandpa Junpei didn't die. Issei. No idiot, he's still alive, maybe until he faints, but he's still alive. While the Redeed and her queen arrived, they accompanied them through the school, which was an exact replica of theirs, where you could see members of the Citri and Bale clan, living with groups of children and adolescents, some talking about magic and others about combat. Citri. Welcome to Oro's academy. The albino and the others were impressed. They could notice how there were children together with their parents, mostly lower middle class demons, even a handful of noble children walking around the campus. As they entered they saw how Sona was talking to construction personnel still. Saji. Kaichu Issei and the occult research group have arrived, he said, drawing the black-haired girl's attention. Sona. Thank you Saji, please continue what we left pending. Saji. Hi. Don't break anything, he said looking at Issei as he left. Issei. Maybe I'll listen to you when your balls grow, idiot, he said mockingly, trying to bother Saji. Saji just left while Issei gave Sona a tender kiss as a greeting. Sona. And tell me what stops you? He said showing him the school. Issei. Linda, it even makes me want to be a teacher, he said with a smile, while he imagined himself as a teacher. Riaz. Sona, the school is wonderful, congratulations, he also said looking at the school. Sona. Thank you Riaz. This is only the first school, and there is still a long way to go, but we were still able to organize this open day. Let me show you more, she said with a smile. While walking through the hallways, the Gremory group and Issei saw how several members of the black-haired girl's family were giving magic courses. Some of the children noticed the Gremory members, putting on perverted smiles when they saw the girls, but they got a little scared when they saw them. To Issei, who saw them with a somewhat evil and malicious smile. Issei. I would really like to be a teacher, he said, imagining being the admin. After that they arrived at the gym where Saryog Bale was giving combat courses to some boys. Eyes. Haha, the students shouted, punching the air forcefully. Saryog. Very good, if they continue like this in the future they will have a great rival like me, maybe they will have epic battles, and also maybe he will let you marry his mother. Issei. I don't like this class. Sona. Well, I had to scold him several times. He kept teaching the students wrestling and various movements with strange names, like the fallen tiger movement, he said looking at Saryog. Saryog. Look students, you are my beloved and tough rival and his friends, he said looking at Issei and his group. Issei. Hello, how are you Saryog? I can tell you're having fun, he said looking at him with a smile. Saryog. Hahaha, yes, it can't be denied, I really enjoy being sensei. The OY1. Sensei, is he his rival? He said looking at Issei who was waving friendly. Saryog. That's right, and one day we will have a legendary battle that will be remembered for generations, he said with a smile. The OY2. Excuse me sir, what is your name? He said looking at Issei. Issei. My name is Issei hyoudou, the husband and lover of the school floor, and don't call me sir, I'm only 16, he said with a smile. The boys, upon learning Issei's name, only saw him with stars in their eyes. GUY3. You are the king of the harem, he said looking at Issei. Issei. The only one in detergent, and all the girls who are behind me are not the only ones who are in my harem currently, he said with a smile while they were sad eyes. Please let's teach how to form our own harem Issei sensei, they said kneeling before Issei. Sona. Issei, there is no way I will let you be sensei, she said looking at Issei blushing. Issei. But I wanted to be sensei and be the admin, he said while looking sad. Sona. No, he said looking at Issei. Issei looked sad, but at that moment he smiled somewhat maliciously as he gathered the boys who were with Saryog. Issei. Good brats, one of the most important rules to keep your harem under control and seduce women easily is technique and self-confidence. I will teach you, he said with a smile. Everyone watched Issei attentively as he approached Sona with a smile. Issei. So you won't let me be sensei? He said looking at the girl. Sona. No way. Issei at that moment touched her butt, making her moan while Issei grabbed her chin. Issei. You know Sona-chan, you are very bad and bad girls should be punished. He said while kneading the black-haired girl's firm butt, making her moan. How about I make everyone hear your cute moans? Sona. And no. I say kun.not in front of everyone. Kai as she moaned when she felt how Issei bit her neck a little. Issei. Will you let me be sensei? She said looking at the girl. Sona. Okay. B, but only if you give me a reward, she said looking at Issei with a somewhat excited and loving look. Issei just smiled as she gave him a nice kiss, and when she finished she only looked at her students to see them writing down Issei's every move and play. Boy. This is her sensei. Well, mine is. I'm Skip. After a while you can see the boys in the group with Saryog sitting under a tree while they chatted under the shade. Saryog. Many of them can't do much with magic, and some can't even use it, so I teach them hand-to-hand combat, although we are thinking of including fencing classes among other disciplines. Issei. I like it a lot, it's like a kind of Howard's for the marginalized, she said with a smile. Saryog. Maybe you're right, if I had had the same opportunity as them, maybe things would have been different. Issei. Then make things different for them, she said with a smile. Saryog. Haha, of course that's what I'll do, she said with a smile as she stood up. The boys were happy as they chatted, but at that moment Saryog noticed someone on the campus. Saryog. Ooh, it looks like it's arrived. Issei. Who? The boys only stood at the entrance where there was also a crowd of children watching the special guest, a man with grey hair and eyes, wearing a red suit with gold accents. Well, he was received by Sona and Sareog. Issei. Who is that guy? Kiba. Really, you don't know? Issei. M. Archer. You. He is the current champion of the rating games. Hauser Belier, the current head of the Belier house. Issei. So if I beat him I will be the champion? You. In theory yes, but maybe if you hit him now Sona would get upset. Kiba. And the only way to beat him is in a rating game. Issei. I would like to have one, he said with a smile. Kiba. It's not that simple. For it to be formal you have to have your own entourage, and we are barely middle-class demons. Issei. You idiots have the powers to defeat gods and destroy entire nations, don't give me that shit. After a while in which the boys were talking, Issei decided to take a short walk around the campus. While walking around the campus, Issei noticed that his classmates were chatting with small courses, yakes, vampires, angels, among others, other creatures, the types of magic. Although Kaneko's core started with drawings of Issei beating villains and in the caption it said, every time he dies he comes back stronger and with more girls for his harem, which intrigued the others, since he looked like a superhero or something like that. Although the brunette found this funny, he continued watching some courses like Saji's, which focused on sacred gear, and told some anecdotes about his adventures to the other boys, and it was clear that he enjoyed being called sensei. Issei. Hahaha, it seems like you're having fun Saji, he said looking at the boy. Saji. Yes, it's kind of fun, I really like being a sensei, he said happily. Issei. So if you want to be a teacher Hahaha, well, good luck, maybe I'll even become one too. Saji. I think that would be a bad idea. Both boys were walking through the school while they saw Asia playing with the smaller children, Irina and Zenobia also playing with the boys, and a Fafnir telling the boys about his dragon days, and like an idiot who was later killed, he killed him. On the other side, there was a certain silver-haired woman who was talking about some Nordic magic. Saji. You know, when I tell them about our battle with Loki or one of the rating games, the children always get excited, hahaha. I want the next time I tell something to be about something I managed to do by myself. Issei. Haha, well, good luck with that, but it will probably take a long time for that, she said with some mockery. Saji. Shut up, I'm Skip. The day had come to an end. The Gremory group, Citri among other demons who taught courses went to rest. On the campus there were more buildings full of female and male dormitories for students. The brunette headed to the bathrooms, where finally he would have a little peace and quiet since a few hours ago the girls were getting a little jealous that he was with some girls, and Sareog simply wanted to fight with him. He was immersed in his thoughts, but he noticed that the bathroom door was opening, thinking that it was one of his colleagues. He did not flinch until he noticed a silhouette in the steam that was a female figure. Roswas. Issei-kun. He said looking at the boy as he slowly became sad. I'm sorry, I thought he was unoccupied. The hot water ran out in the girl's bathroom so. Issei. Don't worry, you can join me, and it's not the first time I've seen you naked, although this reminds me of the story Rito told me. Only with fewer aliens and explosions. The silver-haired girl just laughed a little at what the boy said, and after soaping up he got into Issei while he was still talking to him about his friends. Roswas. So that's what you did with the boys during the day? He said looking at Issei as he hugged him tenderly. Issei. Yes, it was very funny, although more so when Kiba tried to explain to a group of children how babies are made, he said mockingly, remembering that moment. The silver-haired girl laughed out of the passion of how the albino told his stories, although afterwards there was a brief silence and he was under her gaze while he saw a reflection in the hot water. Roswas. Issei-kun, do you really think we'll make it? Do you think we can prevent them from releasing 666? Issei. Why shouldn't we do it? Plus I already told you, it doesn't matter if he gets in my way. If some idiot tries to separate me from you, I will kill him, he said while the silver-haired girl sat on Issei's lap and the albino hugged her. Roswas. Yes. But Issei-kun, can I ask you a favor? If they ever manage to manipulate me and use me for their purposes, please kill me. Issei remained in shock. Shocked by what she said, but the girl was just crying. I'm afraid that they will use me to harm the people I love. I'm afraid that many innocent people will die because of me. It wouldn't be able to bear it. The brunette only separated her a little and saw the director in her eyes. Issei. That won't happen. I won't let that happen. For them to achieve that they will have to kill me first. Besides, even if they manage to kill me, rest assured that I will come back from the dead again, and this time stronger than before, he said as he wiped the girl's tears. Roswas. Issei-kun. Issei. Also. We went to the land of the dead. If that didn't stop us, nothing will. I will always be with you, Ross-chan, he said, giving the girl a tender kiss. She only blushed while the kiss returned. Both just hugged each other happily while they continued kissing. Little by little the kisses turned into caresses, and the caresses turned into great nights of passionate love on the part of both of them. Time skip next day. You can see an Issei leaving his room, leaving a sleeping Roswis with a beautiful smile while he went to the bathrooms to shower, but he noticed that someone was waiting for him on the other side of his door. Gonder, did you enjoy last night? He asked, seeing Issei shirtless and only wearing boxers. Issei. A little, yes. But what are you doing here, Mrs. Gonder? Gonder. I came to bring you to the meeting. I know that the Redeed would refuse along with the others, so I didn't tell them. Are you coming? Issei. There will be magicians, and will it be interesting? Gonder. Yes, although you will be like my bodyguard. Issei. Okay, I accept, said happily. Time skip elsewhere. It was already noon. The albino and the oldest silver-haired girl were in the floating city. They were escorted by demons who took them to where the meeting would take place with a magical circle of protection in sight. Upon entering, they noticed several magical item stalls were in place, including cursed items. Issei. Wow, it's like Diagon Alley, he said, looking around. Gonder. Nah, they are just fans and amateurs. Come on, boy, where we are going is there, she said, pointing to a large building. Issei. Of course, we have to go with the elves to get some money, she said mockingly. Gonder. Stop talking nonsense and move. The albino, upon walking towards the large building, would notice several spells, witches, wizards, liches, among others. These entered the building, and when doing so, Issei only saw several high-caliber magical items, scrolls and other types carrying beasts and monsters, such as golems and other creatures that helped with their belongings or other things. Issei. He asked me if they will sell me adobe. Elsewhere, Oro's academy dormitory. One Roswis was getting up calmly after having some time alone with Issei, along with a night full of passion and love. This one was getting up to see next to her a note from her grandmother. Note. Gonder. I borrowed it, your beautiful grandmother. P.S. Maybe we are a little late. End note. Roswis. Riaz will kill me for this. With Issei. These went deeper and deeper into the building, as more powerful and peculiar sorcerers ascended from floor to floor. Issei. Why did you bring me? I doubt someone like you will need protection. Gonder. Listen, boy, I was not born yesterday. If you gather many lambs in one place, it is a good opportunity for the wolves to hunt. Although the intentions of that crow and the pretty boy Surziches are good, it is obvious that they cannot have it all under control. Issei. So. Gonder. Yes. They will attack, she said it would be. Issei. Does this still seem like a good idea to you? She said while he had a magic wand, a grey tunic, an owl on his shoulder, and had a fake beard. Gonder. Now that I think about it, a bit better, not much. Issei. Everyone kneel before the great Dumbledore, she said while the other wizards looked at him. Gonder. Where did you get all that from? Issei. I took it off a lich, the boy said, while the tunic was a little big. Gonder. Sigh, he's like a child. Issei. Hey Gonder, do you think we can go eat before the meeting starts? It's just not breakfast. Ooh, how about we go eat in the great dining room with the other houses? Issei continued behaving like a child, but at that moment a girl with silver hair, almost violet, was writing something on a piece of paper which said, I will have something. Issei. What? Are you mute, girl? He said looking at the girl. Gonder. A necromancer, he said looking at the girl. Do you think there is food upstairs, Mr. Dumbledore? Said the girl, communicating by writing in a small notebook. Issei. Maybe. Hey, you, said a slightly shrill voice, are you bothering the other sorcerers? Are you making fun? Said the girl looking at Issei. Upon seeing the girl, Issei only noticed that she had pink hair and also a uniform from some magical school. Issei didn't pay attention to her and just went with the girl in armor and platinum hair to get something to eat. Hey, don't ignore me, she said, upset seeing how Issei and the other girl were sleeping. Issei. So which house are you joining? She said looking at her new friend with silver hair and armor. The one who has the most food, she said, the silver-haired woman writing in her notebook. Art 75 DXD team. Roswis can be seen kneeling in front of Riaz while she is seriously looking at her, scaring most of her classmates who were present in the Oro's academy meeting room. Riaz. So. Your grandmother took my ice to a wizard meeting without our consent. She said looking at the little girl. How did this happen? Roswis. Well. Issei used his seductive powers, and after having a very pleasant night he had disappeared when I woke up, and the grandmother had left me only the note, she said, showing the small note to the Redeed. The Redeed could only burn the note with her crimson energy, while everyone became more nervous. Sareog. Now, come on, I think they're exaggerating. It's not like I'm going to do something to Roswisen's grandmother, she said, trying to calm the situation. You. Whispering, don't do it, Sareog. Tiba. Whispering, you're walking through a mind sight. The girls only looked at Sareog not with an annoyed look but one of pity, as if he were a very innocent child without knowing what was happening. Yu and Kiba made signs by passing their hands around his neck to stop the conversation, but a dark aura with a slight touch of crimson began to flood the room as the Redeed turned around slowly and naturally. Riaz. You say. What's wrong with it? She said with a dark voice as she took heavy steps towards the black-haired man, scaring him a little. Akeno. Hi, Riaz. Can you tell me what was the last adventure that Issei had without my consent or knowledge? Akeno. Well. He became a vampire, saved a legendary vampire, and slept with Yuki-chan. Rias. Exactly. And before that. Akeno. Old man to Carmilla territory to save her Butchu. Rias. And what happened? Akeno. Ice-kun kissed a girl. He said well she also started to get upset with the other Issei harem. Rias. And before that. Akeno. Ice-kun traveled to Helheim and returned with Rainer-san and Hela. Rias. And before that. Akeno. He fought with Tiamat-san and danced with her. He said well each of the girls had a terrifying aura. Rias. Sareog. Sareog. Hi, he said scared by the terrifying aura emanating from the girl and the others. Rias. Do you understand what I mean? Tiba and you. For all that is sacred and demonic, don't say anything. Sareog. What? Issei is a good dancer. He said nervously without knowing what to answer. The girls upon hearing that simply began to bring out more terrifying aura scaring the boys. You. Gasper protect us he said frighteningly, standing behind Gasper. Tiba. They won't do anything to you, so please protect us he also said behind the cloth. The girls were simply furious, the only thing that kept them sane, and that they didn't go looking for Issei, was that he was with Yui and Lin, and that was a little insurance that he wouldn't expand his harem any further. While that scene was going on, the children who were on the school campus only saw through the window how the meeting room emanated a purple and terrifying aura coming from the girls. BOY1. So Issei-sama expands his harem even more. BOY2. It seems that way, but it's better that we go somewhere else, the girls are scary he said, looking at the meeting room filled with the immense murderous instinct of the girls. BOY3. Issei-sama is my idol, but I don't know how she will save herself from this. The boys just left, no longer seeing the now terrifying meeting room. Zenobia. Let's stay calm, he's with Yui and Lin, and if what the note said is true, Issei is in a meeting of magicians, isn't it a reason to calm down? Rias. Explain yourself he said looking at the girl with a serious look. Zenobia. Well, when I was an exorcist, many magicians were old and very old, so Issei's adventure will be like a trip to the asylum, most likely he must be bored at this moment. Irina. Yes, Zenobia is right, he is probably more than bored. Sona. He will most likely arrive with a legendary weapon or new abilities that would easily kill a god. Rias. Well. I think maybe they're right she said while the room regained its normal atmosphere and the boys calmed down, stopping using Gasper as a shield. Akeno. Or maybe he's beating a 500-year-old evil wizard she said with a sadistic smile. Tiba. Don't you think that's bad too? All. No, as long as I don't bring more girls there is no problem they all said at the same time. You. Whispering how do we tell him? He said looking at a photo that Issei apparently sent and in it there were two pretty girls while he was dressed as a magician. Tiba. Whispering it's better not to say anything if we don't want to die. And another side. The albino walked with a smile while he kept thousands of magical items in his pocket dimension, potions, wands and other things were put into that bottomless dimension, while he was accompanied by Yui, Lin and the silver-haired girl with armor. Issei. Great, I have a lot of memories, plus some things for the boys, hahaha, I want to see their faces when I gave them this he said, looking at some magic wands and other things. My armor is even more legendary the platinum hair wrote in his small notebook, while his armor had some parts now made of gold. Hey, those are not items that you can just pick up said the pink-haired woman, they are personal objects of magicians and sorcerers, you stole them he said as he saw behind them some beaten wizards and others, whom he had simply stolen from them stealthily. Can you give me more candy? He wrote to Palaplatina while Issei gave him another candy. Issei. Don't worry, I have many, eat whatever you want, I have them in case Kaneko is in heat again. Why doesn't security do anything said the pink-haired woman, and you can see that you are a wise and powerful sorceress, why haven't you done anything to stop him he said looking at Gondar. Gondar. Girl, I'm not his babysitter, he's my bodyguard, to the point where he hits everyone who seems suspicious on our walk just for fun he said, while drinking a bottle of meat, and I also realized that he stopped making me case the first 3 floors, but don't worry we will return those things at the end of the meeting. Issei. Who said he would do it? He said looking at Gondar. You have to return them, they are from important magicians. Issei. I'm important, much more than them, so I won't do it he said while he had a smile while still behaving like a child. Gondar just sighed, he really didn't know what his granddaughter saw in Issei, but he could see some things that were easily ways to seduce any girl who got in his way. Like when Issei bumped into a pretty mage and Issei, in addition to apologizing, kissed her wrist in a gentlemanly manner and then almost made her faint from embarrassment. Issei in short for Gondar was all a playboy seducer of women. After a while they entered an elevator, Issei ran like a child next to the plate-haired girl in armor, while Gondar and the pink-haired girl only followed him, resigned since nothing, and no one apparently could control Issei. They went up a couple of floors while Issei was talking to Yui and Lin about the things he had obtained, after going up a few floors when the door opened, they only saw some guards who received them. GUARD1. Welcome, said one of the guards. Can you tell me your reasons why you want to pass? Issei. We want to have fun and eat in the large Howard's dining room, he said simply. Guard 1. Excuse me. Gondar. Sai, I am Gondar and this is my bodyguard the Shinigami, he said, showing his invitation and terrifying the guards when they saw Issei. Issei. Dumbledore or Lord Ains to you, he said with a smile. Guard 1. And those two? He said looking at the other two girls. My name is Euclid Helseth, said the note from the little silver-haired girl. Guard 2. What kind of name is it? Issei. The name of a great sorcerer, he said looking at the guard. Guard 2. Touche. Guard 1. But curiously it's on the list, you can come in. And are you? He said looking at the pink-haired girl. Gufufu, my name is Louise Françoise Leblanc de Haraga, daughter of. Issei. What a bucking long name. Guard 1. Fran what? Franciscoid. He said while looking for the girl's name on the list. Guard 2. I think he's French. Guard 1. Sorry, it doesn't say anything about French here. Louise. Sigh, in this world it would just be Louise Higara. Said the pink-haired woman. A specialist in vacuum magic. Guard 1. The Higara clan. She said, checking the list again. Guard 2. Ah yes, I heard that they are new to the noble families of magic. Guard 1. Well, that's enough for our cause, she said, hiding her mocking smile when looking at Louise. You can come in. The albino and the others went to a huge room the size of a mini coliseum that formed a kind of cone with a stage in the middle and some tables where there were already quite a few old sorcerers, demons of great position accompanied by guards all over the place. While our group sat in the empty places in the corner. In a moment the stage lights came on showing a somewhat elderly magician with a big beard, an old robe, a pointed hat and an old voice. Good afternoon, witches and wizards, we begin our 533rd meeting and 612th meeting of the new millennium, she said with a smile. Issei. Who is he? Gandalf. Where is old Dumbledore? She said, looking for the other magician with her gaze. Louise. No, I know the real Gandalf, he would never look like that. Rather, he looks like Headmaster Osmond. Issei. Do you know the real Gandalf? Louise. Yes, he is my grandfather, she answered simply. Issei. Don't buck with me, you really know him, and he's your grandfather, he said looking at Louise with star-shaped eyes. Before the pin cat could answer, the old wizard had spoken. But this meeting is very different. He said seriously. The demons have given us the opportunity to enter their domain to collaborate against a greater evil, an evil that will possibly unite everyone, he said, while the audience became upset and began to murmur. The XTRA1. Primal gods, haha, how ridiculous, said one of the sorcerers with a receding hairline, grey hair and a white tunic. The XTRA2. Although a few months ago we realized how much we are not alone in the universe and cannot believe in ancient deities of chaos. Said a blonde man with long hair and a beard, the factions are uniting for a common purpose to save not only our planet but our reality. Shaman. The stars have spoken, he said while he was surrounded by some Aztecs, Apaches, among other tribes of the world. We have to act before the planets align against us. Everyone at that moment began to argue, some of them making negative comments about a specific faction or their treaty, others supported the idea of an alliance, but a minority made supportive comments against the new way of life outside the earth, supporting the original Lucifer. Wizard. Silenciu, the bearded wizard shouted, silencing everyone. Do you believe in deities of chaos or not? Several of our people are being kidnapped. Wizards, witches, necromancers. Families. It is our duty to put an end to this. The room at that moment began to get dark, while several magic circles sealed all the exits and the guards stood in front of them. Gondar. They're here. He said it would be while he rested his feet on the sidewalk in front. Louise. Who? Gondar. Millennium. He said while the guards exposed their demon wings and some others dragon wings but of enormous eyes, while their skin fell off exposing their true nature to one of evil dragons, such as those of the Carmilla territory. Others they were wingless, but these were larger and heavier. Did you really believe that groups and families of magicians could gather together as if nothing had happened? And then go home? He said looking at the pink-haired girl. The old demon king would not waste this opportunity. Louise. You knew it was a trap and you still refused to come. Issei. Girl, we come to make sure that none of you idiots die, she said as she stretched, and she is an experienced Valkyrie, she has seen kingdoms fall for less, she said as the silver-haired girl drank her mead. Various wizards were trying to escape using teleportation spells, witches pulling out their blood packs, sorcerers trying to open portals, but nothing was working. Louise. What's happening? My magic doesn't work, she said without being able to activate her power. Gondar. Everyone's magic has been sealed. Louise. You knew that and you didn't tell us. Gondar. Girl, this is not my first ambush, because you think she brought him in, she said pointing at Issei. Issei simply sighed so that he snapped his fingers and many swords of light appeared. Issei. Well. Who wants to dance, she said with a sadistic smile. Elsewhere, Oro's academy. Meanwhile, on the school campus, the Auroras were surprised and not in a good way by the phenomenon that was occurring around them. The purple sky of the underworld was turning into a very dark gray. The children's parents wondered what was happening while the group Gremory, Citri and Bale were leaving the building to see what was happening. Asia. What's happening? He said looking at the now gray sky. Tiba. I have a bad feeling. You. No way. At that moment a blizzard began to blow, it seemed that a hurricane was forming around them. Momo. Students, family and teachers, please go inside the building. I repeat, students, families and teachers, enter the building. Now the girl spoke over the school speakers, one of the Citri girls. The members of each group were in the academy gym with the other families and teachers, while the Citri group tried to calm them down. Riaz. I can't contact the outside, she said, trying to use a communication circle. Akeno. Nor teleporta, she said, disappearing a transportation circle. Kaneko. The Kai of the area has not been altered. While the boys were trying to find a solution, Sona had taken out a communicator in which he took out a hologram in which you can see Roswis's grandmother trying to communicate with them. Roswis. Grandma. Onder. Ross, I was starting to worry that this won't work. Sona. What's happening? Riaz. Where is Ice? Onder. The good guy. Is taking care of something, she said as some gunshots and explosions were heard. Sareog. Sounds like she's having fun. Onder. At least he is. Sona. Gondar-sen, I will ask you one more time, what is happening? Onder. Isn't it obvious? Millennium activated a trap, they activated a barrier here and at the school, they try to get as much magic blood as possible. Tsubaki. That doesn't explain why school. Onder. He knew that Issei and the others were there, so he got a little ahead of me. Roswis. Grandma, you took Issei-kun without telling us. Onder. It was necessary, he knew they would seal our magic. Sona. How did you know that? Onder. It's a war strategy, if your enemy can only use one type of weapon, you take it away. But the seal only seems to be limited here. Saji. But how did they know that the meeting was not going to be controlled? Onder. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Do you think the demons would sit idly by knowing that there is a very powerful enemy out there? Riaz. The blood of the Lucifer is highly prized in the underworld. If Rizavin can come up with a plan against the Devolukians and show them as a threat, hopefully many demons would support him. You. But who would be able to seal the power of many to such a magnitude? Issei. Avada Kedavra. The albino's voice was heard through the hologram while he held a wand, and a green flash came out of it, while many enemies fell to the ground dead. Ha 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 ha. Come girls, I told you that I could do it, he said, while Yui and Lin were next to him. Riaz. Ice. Louise. I didn't say you couldn't, I said you shouldn't do it, said the pink-haired girl's voice in the background. All. Whose voice is that? They all said angrily while looking at Gondar still in the hologram. Gondar. I don't know, if there is someone who can do such a thing, I can only think of someone, the legendary evil dragon, the dragon of 1,000 witchcraft, Ozzy Dahaka. Issei. Then I just have to go and kick that idiot's ass. What do you think, Yukli-chan? She said looking at the platinum-haired girl. Sareog. I know what the girls meant, he said, while the girls emanated more and more terrifying aura. Issei. Expertly Armis, the albino shouted as the image lit up again. Louise. Saying another word doesn't make it a different spell. Gondar. Well, we'll finish here and then we'll go as fast as possible. Riaz. If I find out that because of you Ice brought another girl to the harem or danced with one of hers, there will be no seal that I can protect you, he said, looking at the silver-haired woman who just started sweating, while the others gave him a murderous look. Onder. Yes, goodbye, he said while saying goodbye. Saji. Guys must see this, he said looking out the window in shock. The Gremory group, Citri and Bale, just looked out the gym window to see something very peculiar. In the sky, a green brain spitting out a snake illuminated the sky, making it dark around it. Tiba. What the hell? You. Is it happening? Rizavin. Hello, tested 1 2, can you hear me, said the demon while he had a microphone in his hand and manifested himself in the form of a hologram. Hearing that voice only disgusted the boys, but it terrified some of them. Rizavin. Cough cough. Do you like my gift, Issei? I did it thinking on you, but don't tell Valerie-chan, she will surely be jealous. Riaz. Rizavin, she said annoyed looking at the demon. Rizavin. Niahahahaha, I didn't want you to be left without fun. I mean, after all, we didn't talk about your salary and the advantages of belonging to my team, but anyway, they decided to form a disgusting group to fight against me, although that didn't stop it from being fun. It isn't true. Avengers. Sareog. How? Revengers. Kaneko. We call ourselves Team DXD, I shout opening one of the windows a little. Rizavin. DXD. But if his Twitter says he's forming a team to kick ass, with random games, having pretty girls and lots of guns, he said reading number the resellers number harem king number playboy number dirty old psychopath, he read, well, I had comments from Rito, Tsukyun among others. Tiba. Shit, the womanizing Issei manipulated Issei's social media. Rizvan. By the way, where is Issei? She said looking for the albino with her eyes. Rias. Ice has social networks and he didn't tell me, he said she while shouting between pouts. Part 76 according to plan. The group was dismayed. Hearing the unpleasant voice of the old man of Rizvan made them feel furious on several levels. Several evil dragons appeared in the distance, but they simply remained motionless waiting for their master's orders. Rizvan. It's a shame, I had prepared a whole show for Issei Tan, even Euclid put on his best clothes, although I think it was because of that girl called Roswas, but it doesn't matter. Apparently we will have a change of scenery. Lan said while thousands of evil dragons were preparing and a tree appeared. The tree began to take the shape of a dragon, and its roots seemed to be alive, expanding everywhere. Let's play a little game which we will call Edo. Dadu battle for Winterfell. I will be the being of the night and you will be the future White Walkers who will serve me. Saji. I never finished watching the series, he said a little nervous about what would happen. Rizvan. The rules are simple, you see, the barrier had a function that I wanted to enjoy for a while. A minute outside the barrier is an hour outside it, so as in all seasons they have to wait for the arrival of the dragons, in this case yours but. Spoiler. I have zombie dragons, he said as a three-headed dragon emerged behind him while he held the Holy Grail, but I will be generous, and unlike this last season, I will give you time to organize your army in a way appropriate. You have 3 hours, and to prevent them from doing some kind of cheat. Again with his typical humor he began to laugh like crazy to get serious and snap his fingers, while large pillars of purple flames emerged around the city. The pillars began to take the shape of a cross, which gave many goosebumps. Rias. Amazing anthem, she said nervous and surprised. Sona. It's useless, she said while some members of her entourage tried to put them out. If one of those flames touches them, it will be the end, let's be careful. Rizvan. That's Team DXD, give the boy a reason to get revenge, his death will be a reminder of the power of the next king. No, the future emperor of the entire galaxy. Well. Bye, she said as the hologram of her disappeared. The DXD team tried to remain calm while they took all the families to an underground shelter in the academy, including those from the city, demonstrating how well prepared they were, but they had never imagined a scenario this strong. Teachers and members of the Citri and Bale family were trying to keep the people under control so that they would not panic while the group leaders thought of a plan. Sona. Gondar-san, she said trying to communicate with the woman again. The boys couldn't see well since the hologram seemed to have strange movements, showing that there was interference. Gondar. Yes. I'm still alive, said through the communicator without showing her figure well due to the interference. Sona. Gondar-san, we have problems, we need reinforcements now. Gondar. Sigh, that's what I should say. We've been fighting for hours. By the way, this boy doesn't get tired. He said looking at an Issei in the background still fighting with a big smile while Cerberus devoured the dragons. Flashback minutes ago. At the meeting of sorcerers, an albino beat several evil dragons, destroying them with ease, letting himself be carried away by his dragon instincts. He began to become more sadistic every time he killed more enemies. With his girl's swords he cut off heads, wings and limbs. Some of them had their necks broken with one blow, some of them were quickly murdered by Albino's revolver, and others were incinerated by its black and white flames. All the other sorcerers tried to defend themselves with the help of the demons present. A pair of silver-haired girls and a pink-haired girl watched the scene with terror and amazement, although the eldest of these only drank from her flask full of mead. Louise. How can you put up with such atrocities, she said trying not to see the massacre of Issei while she saw Gondar. Gondar. Girl, I come from Asgard, you should also see Valhalla where everyone kills themselves over and over again and then goes drinking, she said simply. The pink-haired girl made a disappointed face, knowing that her arguments would be in vain, until she saw how the shorter silver-haired woman looked away when she saw how some dragons were incinerated, so that everyone could hear how it screamed until it dissolved into dust. Euclid. I don't like to see this kind of thing, she wrote in her notebook. Louise. Not even me. My grandmother always told me the story of how my grandfather faced an army of 7 million. Of course he didn't come out unscathed, but he always said that war was a despicable act, but if he had to face an army just as strong again just to save my grandmother, he would gladly do it. Now he asked me, what is the reason why he fights? She said looking at Issei, why is he smiling like that despite this bloodbath? Gondar. He is also a dragon, and powerful, dragons like a battle, and even more so if it is bloody, so I guess that's it, he said, looking at how Issei had a big smile and didn't stop. It seems that he is not turning out as we expected, said a male voice from the back of the entire room. Haha, let me take over, said a feminine voice full of madness. The life expectancy of these people is very great, it will be very useful to me. Very good, answered the same man who apparently wore a white tunic and a penguin mask, but leave alive those who will be useful to us. The albino had killed most of the evil dragons, but teleportation circles continued to bring them, although in smaller numbers. The latter was preparing to fight by walking a couple of steps and then jumping back. A man in a white tunic and a mask of penguin had fallen in front of him with the intention of hitting him. Issei. So you're some kind of final boss? He said looking at the man. Let me kill him, said mockingly a second figure of smaller stature, with blonde brown hair with pigtails and a katana on his arm. This one had a more peculiar mask, as it was that of a demon or oni laughing, although this one had a black tunic, but his partner stopped her. No, now is not the time, said his partner. You take away the fun from life, he said while he is running to another direction. The youngest silver-haired woman looked at this figure with sadness and terror as he fell to his knees, shedding tears. Louise. What's wrong with you, he said trying to help her so she would get up. Gondar. It seems that I will have to take action too, said Gondar when he saw how the girl in the demon mask was laughing like crazy when she managed to kill several sorcerers and demons. Gondar only frowned to take a big leap to parry his attack. Who are you, said the girl with pigtails. Out of my way 80%, he said before launching a small energy field that she sent the silver-haired girl flying, crashing her into one of the walls. Meanwhile, the albino had no problems confronting the masked man, quite the opposite, with a single punch he managed to break his neck and kill him quickly. Issei. Damn, and for a moment I was excited, he said with disappointment when he saw that man's corpse. Issei only turned around to help Gondar, but at that moment he heard a particular sound. It was the sound of bones settling. He quickly turned around to see how that man's bones settled while he stood up. 100%, he said to attack Issei by throwing a punch at him. Issei only put his right arm like this, quickly protecting himself from the masked man's blow, but due to the force of the blow, Issei retreated a couple of meters. Louise. You didn't kill him, she said looking in shock at that man who apparently was not dead. Issei. Apparently not. Haha. This is getting interesting, he said as a smile formed on Issei's face. The albino launched himself again against the mysterious figure with the penguin mask. Every time the figure whispered a percentage of boost was heard in the background. Issei clearly knew that maybe this subject had some kind of copy of his booster gear sister or something like that. The masked man's arms would break as soon as Issei put in any effort in the battle. He really found it funny, since he was like a doll that every time he broke, he put himself back together again, and Issei was amused since every time he saw the guy getting exhausted while he was it was fresh as a rose. Issei. Are you done? Said the albino looking at the tired masked man on the ground. I want to know how much you can increase. Did that idiot Euclid give you some kind of sub-sacred gear? He said looking at the masked man with some mockery. Yui. I love that word doesn't exist. Issei. Well, I just invented it, he said with a smile. The albino had lowered his guard and the masked man had taken advantage of that carelessness on Issei's part to give him a big blow. 500%, I screamed loudly to punch Issei in the chest. Upon receiving the blow, Issei was sent flying, causing him to crash against one of the walls of the place. The masked man's hand had been broken by using so much power, destroying his bones, and also by hitting Issei's chest. A large screen of smoke had formed when Issei had crashed into the wall, and when it dissipated, they could only see Issei getting up, as if nothing had happened while he had a smile. Issei. Well. That really hurt me, he said while looking at the masked man who looked at Issei with some nerves. Then flashback currently, the silver-haired woman stood up while part of the communicator was destroyed by her battle, at least the part that showed the image, but the audio worked correctly. Sona. Gondar-san, what's going on? Roswis. Grandma. Gondar. Listen, we will try to finish this as quickly as possible, and we will send reinforcements. Sigh. I'm too old for this. He said while taking off his tunic suddenly, showing armor with runes engraved on it. Alright bitch, now I'll show you why the word retired doesn't exist for the Valkyries. Elsewhere, Academia Oros. The young people were preparing for their battle, making teams and reinforcing the walls of the academy with magic and traps. Some demons from the city with the profession of bringing order would help from inside the windows and rooftops to protect the families, while they waited for all this will end before the time limit will arrive. A magical communication circle hologram had appeared in the main garden of the campus. It showed the image of a young woman in a purple gothic Lolita outfit and a matching umbrella. Hello demons, my name is Walburga and I just came to say that I am very excited to kill you. After all, Rizavan says that her death will help put Issei Hyoudou's daddy on the path of evil. Sona. She is the possessor of the Insiberate Anthem Longinus, she said she would be she. Walburga. By the way, which one of you is Roswisan? He said while everyone at that moment looked at the silver-haired girl who was sad but tried to show bravery. To tell the truth, they asked me to take you as unharmed as possible. I'm so jealous that a man as handsome as Euclid loves you. Although to be honest I prefer that porcelain face and crimson eyes of that Issei boy, she said with a blush when thinking about our protagonist. Stay away from him. Roswis. Cough. Well, tell Euclid that my answer is still no. I will fight and die alongside mine. That is a great honor in Asgard and in the underworld. Besides, I already have a boyfriend, she said blushing. Walburga. What, do you already have a boyfriend, and who is it, she asked curiously. Roswis. Issei-kun said blushing. Walburga. Damn, how dare you rub that in my face. Maybe you have already seen that stallion dragon, but there are some who haven't. Ho 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 ho. I would love to kill you and your friends in front of you. Hibba. Besides that, according to Issei, Euclid is Rizovan's bitch, she said simply. You. Ha 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 ha. I remember when he said that he would surely suck him when the old man wanted him. The boys just started laughing as the hologram of the dragon disappeared. Time was beginning to run out. Those fathers and mothers with good control of magic joined together to fight, some to defend the perimeter, others to block the doors and hallways of the place, creating barricades, some made with earth magic, others crafted from wood, vehicles, concrete and other materials. The leaders of each retinue begin to give words of encouragement in the battle, trying to cheer them up. Rias. Ready, my adorable servants, we have already faced evil dragons before, but now it is very different. Today our terrain is limited, and above all we are not complete, but dying is not an option. Fight with all your power. All. Hi. At the end of Ria's motivational speech, a darkness began to flood the entire place, a penetrating darkness that even with her demon vision was difficult to see through. The only light that allowed vision were the crosses of fire, the electric lights of the academy, Kiba's white sword and the occasional improvised torch. The demons didn't say anything, they just stayed silent, preparing their attacks with magic circles, others taking work tools and mixing them with magic. From the depths they could hear how the dragons walked, moved their wings, roared with fury as they appeared in front of the barricades. The demons quickly began to attack. Rugel, Yu, Kiba, Zenobia, along with the hyoudou twins, attacked the dragons from the ground. They couldn't fly, but they were larger, which could destroy the barricades without problems. While Riaz, Izara and Benia tried to confront Walburga, exchanging high-powered attacks, explosions caused by Drag and Izara, crimson lightning from Riaz and purple flames from the evil dragon. The civilian demons were having trouble keeping some dragons at bay, some others were about to be crushed, but creatures of a terrifying nature were beginning to attack them. They were creatures created by Gasper, who was in his semi-beast form, making horns and claws. Came out of Gasper's body while his fangs also sharpened. A strange black fog also began to manifest, also supporting those who attacked the winged dragons. Gasper? Let's help our senpais, he said, making his beasts attack the dragons. Meanwhile, from the windows of the academy, demons bombarded with magic the dragons that approached through the sky, and one or another that managed to pass through its walls. On the other hand, Asia launched healing arrows from the roof of the academy, while being protected by Irina, Yuri and members of the Citri clan. On the other hand, the members of the Bale group contained the situations very well at some barricades. Kaneko. We have problems, she said this through a magical communication circle, or rather two problems. The evil dragon Grendel and Layden have appeared. Grendel. Brat, where the buck are you, he said while destroying some of the buildings looking for Issei. We have not settled our battle before yet. Layden. Control yourself, Grendel, you look like a child. Saryog. A very obese child, he said with mockery while he looked at him with mockery, and Kaneko and Saji stood next to him. Saji. I don't think it's a good idea to provoke him, Saryog said nervously. Kaneko. Damn, Saji. Kaneko-chan, what are you doing? Layden was ready to attack the three boys, but at that moment Grendel stopped him while he saw the three boys. Something bothered him. Grendel. They are mine, he said while having a sadistic smile. Elsewhere with Issei. Issei was yawning while the masked man had sword stuck in all parts of his body, his tunic was full of blood, his clothes were torn, and his mask was broken, although it was good enough to cover part of his eyes. Him avoiding seeing his identity. Issei. Yawn, how boring, I thought you would reach at least 1000%, but well, I guess you also have your limit. Well, it's time to end this. I hope the managers have a good janitor after this, he said, looking to the masked man. The albino in his right hand was giving off flames ready to completely incinerate the masked man, but at that moment he heard a gunshot. Yui. It can't be. Issei only felt something strange on his back. He didn't feel pain, he just felt how it became slow, like some kind of magic made Issei very slow. 900%, the masked man shouted, giving Issei a big blow. Issei only felt how one of his ribs broke upon receiving that great blow, and he was sent flying until he destroyed some seals in the room, thus passing through some walls of the room. I didn't expect to see you here, he said, looking at a girl with white hair with two pigtails. I think you say thank you, he said with a somewhat elegant voice, and I also have to see someone I know. Issei. Shit, that hurt, he said, getting up. Lin. Yui, she is. Yui. Yes. I tease her, said she would be. Issei. Well, I don't know who you are, but that magic you used seems somewhat familiar to me, he said, looking at the albino with two pigtails. Well, it doesn't matter. The only thing I know is that I will rip off that watch that you have on the eye, and so when I put it on my wrist, I will remember the time I ripped it out of you. Yufufu, you are the first person to flatter my eye. I see why Kurumi-chan likes you so much, or sorry, your name is Yui now, right? He said looking at Issei's sword. Issei. Wait, Kurumi. What is Yui talking about? Both girls' swords at that moment took their human form while they saw the masked girl. Yui. So you're really still alive. Ahahaha, of course yes, after all it doesn't matter which versions of me you've killed in the past, always open one that will survive and move forward. Issei. Yui, who is she? Yui. She is an old friend. Right. Queen. Heart 77 Queen. The magicians present in the room did their best to fight. Another minority tried to escape or negotiate with their captors, but it was in vain. Those who were not kidnapped by members of Millennium were killed, devoured or even died from exhaustion. The silver-haired woman with a good body and armor was fighting with difficulty, since she could barely keep up with the pace of the battle against her enemy, a girl who showed great physical and magical abilities. 100% the girl shouted as she punched the silver-haired girl. Bonder was barely able to dodge the attack while trying to keep distance between that girl and her, but when the silver-haired girl stepped back, she could sense how that was a trap, and that assumption was confirmed when the girl he was fighting with smiled. Disappear 110%, she said as she released a large and powerful blast of fire. The Polyplatina, using a magical shield, was able to protect herself from that attack, but unfortunately some of her companions were incinerated by the attack. Concentrate, said the masked man with the penguin mask. We must not fail in this mission. DSCK, don't be arrogant just because I haven't been able to kill you yet, said the masked woman looking at the silver-haired woman. After I finish with this old woman, I will kill some of them to recover lives, she said with a sadistic smile, while caressing the cheeks of an elderly sorcerer and then piercing his chest with her sword. The masked man quickly went to stop his partner because he thought that some of those people would be useful. With Issei, he was fighting a copy of Yui, but he had a different outfit. His clothes were white along with his dress, and his eyes were red and blue. Issei really thought they were very similar, since he could even notice that they had the same measurements. Queen. Hahaha, so this is your new owner Kurumi-chan. He said looking at Issei. Well, I have to say that he is handsome, besides that old man of our father didn't suit you, he was already very old. Issei. Yui, do you want to explain to me who he is? And why does he call you Kurumi-chan? Yui. Well. The girl could not explain since the albino with the evil smile took out a sword along with a short pistol and began to attack. Queen. Let's see what you're made of, boy, he said with a sadistic smile. Issei only stood on guard by drawing his two swords. Girls. The woman pointed her gun and said a few words before pulling the trigger. Queen. Arai bang. The bullet when it came out of the gun went straight to Issei's head. He easily dodged it by moving his head, but the woman, seeing that alone, smiled. Yui. Master jump. Hearing the warning, Issei only jumped to see how the bullet he had fired had returned, and he was moving as if he had a will of his own. Issei seeing the just smiled, so he cut the bullet in half. Queen. Wow, it seems that you are more skilled than I had imagined, Fufufu, but I wondered how long your new master would last against me without having all your power, Kurumi-chan said with a smile. Issei. What? The albino did not let Issei think, and with his sword in hand, he began to attack. The woman disappeared in different blinks. Issei could barely keep up with her, since every time she disappeared she appeared behind him and tried to stab him. Seeing that, Issei could only increase the intensity of his attacks and prevent him from being able to teleport easily. At one point Issei had released a blast of black fire that was going to hit her, but he said a few words before he could burn her. Queen. Sartan. As he said that, space warped to protect the albino from Issei's attack. The albino was surprised when he saw that, but a certain girl's sword was looking at the white-haired woman in a serious way. Issei. Who the hell is she and how does she do that? Can she manipulate time? Queen. Ara, it seems the Kurumi-chan hasn't told you about me and her true powers along with our origin, she said with a mocking smile. Well, I don't blame you, after all, she and I. Hahaha, let's say that our destiny is written by the god of time himself. Issei. What? Yui. Shut up, he doesn't care about that. Queen. Come on Kurumi-chan, don't be mean, I just clarified her doubts. Fufufu, good boy, to make it a little clearer, Kurumi-chan and I are spirits, but I think the people of your time they would call us projects. Issei. Can you be a little more specific? How are you projects? Queen. Kurumi-chan has to tell you that, besides, when she and I finally solve our problems, I want her to have all her power, otherwise it won't be fun, so in the meantime she said while pointing her gun at Issei, let's split up a bit. Hearing that, Issei just sheathed his two swords. Girls to take out his revolver. Issei stepped back a little and bowed. Issei. Okay miss, let's dance, she said while seeing the albino. Elsewhere Academia Oros. The battle with the DXD group was heavy. Sareog, Saji and Kaneko had a little difficulty fighting Grenell. The dragon's attacks were powerful, and it destroyed the place without any concern or interest. It even attacked some of its companions, but he didn't care, he simply attacked without any control. On the other hand, Yu, Kiba and Zenobia kept saving the civilians, preventing the evil dragons from devouring them, and removing the civilians who were fighting with them from the rubble. Zenobia. I think Butchu is trying too hard, I hope she doesn't overdo it and that she's okay, she said, looking into the distance as giant crimson blasts collided with purple flames. A huge pillar of crimson flames and energy rose high as Azara and Riaz fought the dragon fiercely. Hiba. She has a lot of contained anger. If my days watching how Issei coexists with her harem has taught me something useful, it is that you should never make a woman angry, much less get into one of her fights. You. Of course Issei doesn't care much about that. Zenobia. And how do you know that exactly? Both? Well. Flashback. You can see an Issei walking down the street, but at that moment two girls began to fight. Apparently both were arguing about the infidelity of their man, who was trying to calm them down without any success, since every time he tried he received a blow to the cheeks. Balls. The boys didn't want to intervene in that, but Issei at that moment wanted an ice cream and they were in the middle of the ice cream stand, so he opted for the smartest option, and that was fix his problem. After talking to the girls, Issei managed to calm them down using his seductive powers, while incidentally punching the man who was unfaithful to them in the face. After that, both girls left without first giving Issei a small kiss on the cheeks. Yu and Kiba were shocked, and the man who was unfaithful to them before was also shocked. Yu. Brother, what did you do? Kiba. And how did you do it? Issei. I'm the harem king, remember? If I don't know how to deal with an annoying woman or women, I don't deserve that title. Now let's eat some ice cream, he said, while asking the ice cream shop for a chocolate cone. Then flashback. Kiba. I don't think that matters. You. The main thing is to take care of the evil dragons. Smash crash slash explosions. Those sounds were heard everywhere in the academy. Sareog, Saji and Kaneko tried to fight the battle against Grendel, who laughed while destroying everything within reach of him, including the evil dragons that were flying nearby. While Saji and Kaneko acted as bait and tried to contain him, Sareog did everything possible to hit the evil dragon, which laughed with every blow it received and then counterattacked. The dragon at one point began to use an apparently huge metal mallet. And with it he began to destroy even more things. This one with the sledgehammer that had apparently come out of nowhere, although the boys knew that a certain old demon had something to do with it, he began to destroy everything in his path with that great weapon. This one with his sledgehammer destroyed the buildings and also caused explosions, destroying gas pipes and other things. Sareog on the other hand was beginning to get angry, since he had received several blows from Grendel. He began to run through the huge mallet to deliver a powerful blow to the dragon's face that made a shock wave. While Grendel enjoyed the battle, Kaneko used stones and pieces of concrete to cover some gas pipes and prevent them from exploding, while Saji used his sacred gear to try to stop the dragon. At one point, Grendel's companion, Lagan, also began to attack Kaneko and Saji, but before he could touch them, he received a blow from Grendel, pushing him away. Grendel. Don't touch them, they are mine, they will be my toys while the hybrid arrives, he said with a sick look. Layden was about to answer, but at that moment both dragons covered a circle of communication. It was not difficult for the boys to understand that they were receiving orders from Euclid. Grendel complained, while Layden obeyed without problem. Layden began to withdraw his roots, causing some tremors. Roots that were beneath the city clearly planned a surprise attack. Without complaint the evil dragon teleported away, but Grendel on the other hand had ignored the order. Grendel, totally excited and immersed in the battle, released all of his power. His fangs along with his claws grew, giving him a more savage shape. This had also grown, and his skin became thicker. Saji. Hey, I think I've seen this before. Sareog. Really? Saji. Yes, in an episode of the Powerpuff Girls. Grendel was now bigger, he was now twice his normal size, but not only that, the mallet in his hands also took on an equivalent size. His mouth was drooling even more than normal, and his stomach had also enlarged. Saji. So what's the plan? Sareog. Attack. Regulus. Regulus. Yes my lord, said the golden lion. He ran at great speed toward Sareog so that he transformed into his armor. The black-haired man, having his armor, only smiled as he began to attack the dragon again. Both exchanged blows in a bestial way. Every time one hit one the other returned two and much more. Grendel, although he was beaten mercilessly, loved the battle, and Sareog became increasingly angry and gave more powerful blows. At one point Grendel gave the black-haired man a big blow that made him recoil and spit out blood, and the dragon, seeing that, just smiled. Grendel raised his mallet while Kaneko jumped in his Nekomata form. He managed to stop his attack by hitting him in the eye, leaving him blind for a few moments. The dragon felt a little pain from the Neko's blow, but he felt a little pain. The battle excited him more and more. The dragon increased the speed of his attacks, thus making the Neko retreat. The dragon at one point gave another blow to Sareog, while he retreated again a couple of meters. Sareog tried to get up while Kaneko tried to help him, while Saji tried to buy them time by throwing debris at him and entangling the dragon's feet with his lasso, but it was useless. Grendel quickly finds them and slowly walks towards them. Kaneko. He wasn't as strong before, not even on the Teeps terrain he was as strong as he is now. Sareog. We have no choice, the families down there depend on us. He said, getting up. If I can't protect them now, I won't be able to when I'm a mag either. Grendel quickly increased his speed as he saw Saraog standing to attack him. Saraog slowly began to remove what looked like a magic seal that limited his power. He had removed 5 magic seals in total. Saraog. Issei told me that these seals would be good for training and that he will only take them from me if necessary, he said seriously. So let's see how much I've improved. The golden and white aura began to cover the black-haired man, surprising Kaneko by his power. The black-haired man quickly launches himself against Grendel and began to exchange blows, side by side, neither one backed down, and both were willing to receive damage. Each blow caused a shock wave so strong that it managed to affect the balance of the dragons that were flying nearby. Grendel. I'm amazed. You are a great opponent, you hit without retreating, you are hurt, but still you don't retreat. It almost makes me feel bad to have you as an appetizer before dessert. Greaser of a building, Saji's rope had not yet released him and Grendel, when he saw that, just smiled. He began to crash Saji again and again against the rubble and ruined buildings until he got tired, but before killing Saji, a Saraog with a large metal beam pierced the dragon's arm. The dragon, seeing his wound, only smiled and mocked the black-haired man's move to throw Saji away from the place. Saji flew a couple of meters until he crashed into some walls, breaking through them. Saraog. Saji-senai screamed, seeing the boy fall to the ground bleeding a lot. Saji's teammates tried to help him, but if they went with him they would leave civilians exposed, and they couldn't allow that. Saji barely sat on the ground while he held his right side. Saji. Shit, that he hurt me, he said, totally hurt. The boy's companions calmed down when they saw him still alive, but they knew that they would have to treat his wounds, since if they didn't, he would surely die from hemorrhaging. Kaneko quickly tries to climb through the ruins to get Asia's attention and have her heal Saji's wounds with Yuri, while Saraog saw the boy's wounds. Saji. Don't worry, Saraog said. I'm fine. I've really been worse. I just need a few minutes. Saraog. Okay, please don't die, he said to get up and leave Saji. The black-haired man only saw the evil dragon with anger and threw himself back into the battle, starting to strike again. The black-haired man's blows began to weaken the tissue of the evil dragon, causing it to vomit blood that was a very dark green liquid. Grendel. Those were my guts, he said mockingly, but the black-haired man continued hitting the dragon, which lost pieces of meat from his body with each blow. Saraog was taking his power to the maximum. The girls of the Citri clan ran after finishing eliminating their enemies. They ran to tend to Saji's wounds with the help of Kaneko and Rugel. They couldn't believe what they saw. The terrifying dragon evil retreated with every blow that the black-haired man gave him. Not only that, but his mocking laughter seemed to have stopped. Even when he saw that, he smiled while the girls laid him down on the ground to give him some phoenix tears, because Asia was too focused on all the other demons, preventing them from dying alongside Yuri. Saji. Incredible, he said, trying to get up, but he still felt a lot of pain in his body from the blows he is doing. Once we defeat Grendel, the rest will be waiting for help. No. Maybe if we manage to protect the school and our students. Said proudly. Sona smiled at Saji's comment, but she couldn't trust herself. The black-haired man smiled when he saw how Grendel was falling to his knees. The black-haired man stepped back for a moment to concentrate all his power in his fist and give the final blow to Grendel. The black-haired man was about to hit the dragon in the stomach with all his strength to finally kill it. But at that moment a large burst of purple fire engulfed the black-haired man, stopping his attack and making him scream in delight. Pain. Saraog. I scream as he is bombarded by a large purple pillar of fire. The black-haired man's burned body falls at the feet of the evil dragon, still with smoke coming out of it, while Grendel looks at the black-haired man and then looks up and sees a Walburga in the distance. Walburga. Oops, I'm sorry, I thought that attack escaped me, she said mockingly. Grendel quickly kicks the black-haired man's knocked-out body without respect or interest, but without stopping to look at the witch with hatred. Grendel. Hey, do not mess, damn witch. Grendel. I told you she had escaped me. Besides, what are you complaining about? The demon is still alive, maybe they will fight again later. Grendel. Don't buck with me, he said, stepping on the black-haired man, but everyone was shocked to see that he was trying to get up with all his strength. Hey, what are you doing? Saraog. The battle. Not yet. Over. I must exterminate you, he said with a little strength he had left. Grendel. Broken toys are no longer useful to me, he said, stepping harder. Do you want me to show you? He said with a mocking smile. The dragon took the black-haired man's head and, holding his cheeks, made him see how other evil dragons were approaching. A horde of dragons flew above the school, forming a synchronized whirlpool. The demons launched attacks to take them down with little success. The dragons at one point began to initiate suicide attacks, destroying several parts of the school. Momo. No, stop, he said, watching the dragons destroy the school while he shed tears. Tsubasa. Kaichu's school. he said in shock looking at the almost completely destroyed school. The black-haired girl watched with sadness and despair as her school was destroyed while she was trying to stop the dragons on her behalf without success. Even the collision of one caused Asia to get out of balance, causing Irina and Yuri to take her to another place. Saji. No. Yo, you don't know how much we have worked. School, the dream is Kaichu. Stop. Elsewhere with Issei. The albino had problems with the albino since every time he tried to attack she disappeared and appeared somewhere else, causing Issei to have some difficulties. The only thing that helped him at that moment were the warnings from Yui and Lin. The albino was already somewhat tired of the fight, and every time he fought with a girl, she had more similarities. Her appearance, her measurements and of course the way she dressed were somewhat similar to Yui's, and that made him have more questions. At one point she shot herself in the head and healed her wounds, and at another time she did the same, but this time she had created clones of herself. Issei using her swords had cut all of them in half, and using her revolver, he shot her, pinking her albino cheeks. Queen. Ara, you are really very good, no person has lasted this long against me. Fufufu, I see what Kurumi-chan likes about you, she said with a somewhat mocking smile. Issei. Yes, well you are also interesting, your suicides cause adjustments in time and space, he said, looking at the albino. That is what makes you so powerful and skilled, you manipulate time and space at will, that is your power. Queen. Fufufu, yes you are interesting, but right now. I have to kill you unfortunately, she said, taking out the sword from her, but I think that because I am Kurumi-chan's master we can negotiate. Issei only laughed a little to take the revolver out of her and look at the albino. Issei. I'm sorry, but Dormammu is not willing to negotiate, she said with a smile looking at the albino as her pupils glowed and became slanted. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.